Hey, how's it going? I am Greg. I'm the creator of Superhero Coding, and I'm doing my one game a month series where I'm making one simple but complete short game a month in tutorial style live streamed. This month, we're going to be making Almost Crossy Road. It's going to be very similar to Crossy Road or Frogger. As always, you can get the code at superherocoding.com and details on that there. And I'm going to be using the Sidekick Scripts as usual, which eventually will be at sidekickscripts.com. But you can always go to Superhero Coding and get the code for what I'm using. First month's always free, or first week's always free, etc., etc. Hopefully you know the drill by now. But hey, we're just going to jump right in and start building something that is almost Crossy Road. 4 simple lessons meant for beginners. I'm starting with the 3D Core URP project. From there, we're just going to jump into Unity and start. All right. So as I said, this is a 3D Core Unity project. Nothing fancy. I have rearranged my UI a little bit the way I like it. You are free to do that or not. Not important. Brand new project, haven't done anything other than start it up. I usually will create a folder and just call it URP stuff. You know, I don't need this tutorial stuff. Don't need that at all. The settings stuff can be okay. So I guess I could have just renamed settings. This reminds me of something I want to change. The first things that change when I start a new project is go to preferences and change my color. I get play mode tint. I use pink so that when I'm in play mode, the whole screen turns pink. So it reminds me I'm in play mode, because in Unity, when you're in play mode, you can't save or anything else. That's important. And the other thing I do is inside of project settings, in editor, I'll go down and toggle enter play mode options under play mode settings. And then I'm going to leave both of these unchecked. That is going to speed up things significantly in all your projects. You will occasionally run into problems with that, but it's pretty rare. If your scripts aren't working, it's not recognizing changes and stuff, go back into project settings, uncheck and recheck that so that it will reload everything. But it's really, really, really rare that I need to. So I'm just going to delete that. I'll call that URP stuff. Drag these two in there. Not important. All right. So we've got our sample scene: camera, directional light, global volume. I'm going to start out like I usually do with a couple of cubes. So I like a cube instead of a plane for my ground, because sometimes the physics stuff can fall through a plane. So I make a cube. I'm going to use my hotkeys over here, W, E, and R, to move, rotate, and scale, which doesn't make sense unless you look at the keyboard. Stretch it out a little bit. Just want a kind of a starting point. And I guess Crossy Road, I'm making a Crossy Road Frogger type game. Is pretty close to the same thing. It all takes place on a long stretch, so we're gonna run with that. Camera is okay. We're gonna want the camera up and angled and have like a super isometric angle. Not gonna mess with all that right now. We're gonna get some of the basics in place first. So I'm gonna call that the floor. I'm gonna clean that up. I'll just make that 10.25 and 50. The next thing I'm going to want to do, I'm going to want a layer. It's a cube, because I'm a programmer, not an artist. And I'll move that there. I'm already going to need to move the camera up. I'm going to go ahead and grab the camera, move it up some. I guess I can even... So if I was doing a Frogger type game, I would do a straight top-down view, and I'm just holding control to snap to angles. Like this, camera is just straight top down. Well, close to it. 90 degrees. Now it's straight and top down. But we need some different colors. So I'm going to create a folder for materials. I'm going to create make one. I guess I'll make this the player, since we're talking about Crossy Road. The chicken is white, so I'm going to do something like that. Drag that onto the player, and then I'm going to have I'll just Control D to duplicate that. Call that ground. Ground is green or like that. Really, I just want to distinguish between the two right now. The light is like way too much, and the bloom and all that is just ridiculous. I'm just gonna turn that off for now. We don't need bloom on our game at this point. So we've got that. If I pull the camera back a little bit, we can see things a little bit better. The player, I'm gonna move the player back some. The shadow's a little distracting, but it's okay for now. It helps us see that something's happening. And now I'm going to go to some of the Sidekick scripts. So I've got them in my code library. One called Player Moves Like Frogger. I'm going to create a script folder. Scripts, and I'm going to create a script. I'm just going to call it player movement. Your file name has to match the class name exactly, case sensitive every time. If I'm copying and pasting from something else, not a big deal. You will presumably be importing a package that is either the Sidekick scripts or the code for this first session of the Crossy Road or one of the others. So just import the package, assets, import package, custom package, find it on the disk, you know the drill. But since I have not packaged all that up yet, I'm just going to come over here, copy it. I'm using a code library called Masscode, pretty useful. Google it. I don't know the website address off the top of my head, and I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Now inside of player movement, I'm going to delete the start and update. If you've watched other videos or are familiar with Unity at all, you know why. Paste everything in here. These three, I just want to really make sure that they match up there. They do. I don't have anything else I'm using. I'm going to delete those. I'm going to delete this. So our class is here. So all this script really does, we move, we get and really we're taking input from an arrow key or WASD, and we're moving around. And if there is input that has happened, we set the offset inside of each one and set has moved to true. And if has moved, we assign the position of the object. So using the Boolean here rather than always assigning that is just faster, it's cleaner code, it's better code. Gives you some other options too. We're gonna mess about that right now. Max ray distance, I don't think we're actually using that right now. I had that in there for some other stuff we don't need at this point. So we're that, go back to Unity, reload everything, the scripts, blah, blah, blah. Player, drag that onto there. And also just drag it over here. Move offset of 1, that's going to be 1 Unity unit. So move it down around, looks good. I like having my scene window and my game window side by side so I can kind of see it from a couple different perspectives. I'm going to hit play, and with that script, as long as you brought it onto the object, it should be good to go. Play, and then W, and S, and A, and D, moves us around. It just does it once each time, just like the original Frogger game. Now, I know Crossy Road, you tap and that moves you forward, and then you can swipe and move back and forth and side by side. I'm not going to get quite into all that. Crossy Road does have, how many basically forward movements you've made, which is an interesting mechanic, and coins you collect along the way to use for other stuff. I probably won't get into those in this 4-week live stream session, but I'm thinking that Crossy Road might be one of those projects that I really build out for the people that invest in it, which is always cheaper during the month I'm building it. Superherocoding.com is details and all that stuff. But I'm thinking this is going to be one where I'm going to take the regular 4 sessions that I always do here on YouTube. Those are always free for everybody to follow along, always. But I think I might really build out this almost Crossy Road type game. Heck, I could even make a Crossy Road and a Frogger out of the same one. Good idea. Really bring some crazy value to that project. But for now, we've got our movement. And that is the beauty of the Sidekick scripts that have different things that do jump on click, spacebar to jump. And all these different scripts that you can import into your scene. You can drag on objects, and it just adds some functionality really quickly. So that is why I built them. That's all custom code from me. It is code that I've found myself using a lot to start projects, especially as I was ramping up to this building a complete game in 4 or 5 hours. And wanted to put that together and thought that would be useful for other people. We've got that, so that's a good place to start. The next thing I'm going to do, the next thing that both of these games have, is they've got stuff moving back and forth. They've got obstacles. So what we want to do there, thankfully, I've got code. I've got move and wrap, which will move an object, but where it wraps, and basically it's moving. If it moves in the X, it moves to a certain point. And when it gets to that point, it just wraps around. Show you that. So just call this moving obstacles. Click into there, and then so move and wrap. Grab everything on that. Move and wrap is a basic movement script that will start out by getting in the transform. We cache it, which is a good practice. We've got a public float for the movement speed. Public floats are fine. Most of the time, if you, I've talked about that in other places. Inside of update, we get the current position, we move, and pretty simple. So if we assign that to an object, say we've got a cube here, just call it obstacle, and that could be, a truck, a log, it could be anything that wide. Put it over here, and then we want to make another material. Obstacle, drag it on, change the color. It's on there. That looks good. And I want to take the moving obstacles and drag that code onto here. Make sure it's material. Can't find it. All right. So the first thing I do when it does that is I will edit something simple. I'll save. I'll come back over here. Not refreshing it. All right. Oh. That's where you go to project settings in your editor. Turn this off. Turn it back on. It really doesn't affect things very often. Reload domain and scene. So reloading the domain basically that's a way of forcing it to recompile all the scripts and stuff. Sort of short version. Now it's on there. It's fine. I still like that turned off because you see, it takes a few seconds. Even if it doesn't take a long time, the difference of me getting up and playing, and then now I've got that thing moving. So if we hit play and we go 1001, 2, 3, 1004, 1005. Okay. You go, oh, what's the big deal? 5 seconds. Well, you're playing your game thousands of times. While you're developing it, they add up. So that is why I leave these two off. Play mode options on, reload domain and scene off. Now watch. Let's see how long it takes now. Oh, not that long. So there's a huge difference. This is the way Unity used to be. It would just, you hit play and it fired up. The old versions, version 5 and 3 and 4. I was using all those. It's gotten slower, and there's good reasons that they do it the way that they do, but I'm thankful that they give us the option to turn it off. So if you ever have a problem, like I just did, with it not quite recognizing a script, it's probably because I made it, renamed it, and pasted stuff in. Toggle that, you'll be good to go. So you now see what moving obstacles does. So this obstacle, it's got a move speed, goes fast or slow or whatever as you want. We put a negative speed, then it goes in the other direction. Except that doesn't work because this is just meant to be kind of a one-way thing. So let me show you why I made move and wrap with parameters. This is a better way to do it for a couple of reasons. Show you. So move and wrap with parameters. Paste all that in here instead. The other reason this is a better script is because it takes time delta time into account, which will basically it helps smooth things out. Is the short version. But this one, you've got a min x and a max x, and it will, if either one is crossed, it flips it to the other one. So now we can have a negative time. It reloads everything and recompiles the script, as it should when you change something. All right. So now we need a different speed. Now we got a move speed of 5. Click this and drag that. Get that going to kind of where you want it to be. So that's not bad, you know, that's like a level 1. Nothing happens right now when it runs into the player because we need that code in place yet. But I can also do it in the negative direction. So with that script, and let's say we take that speed, you know, -9, -10, something like that. So we've got that moving. If we want another obstacle, we can take another one and put another one right behind it. It's got the same speed. It will, you know, they'll move in sync, just like cars in Crossy Road or Frogger. They go through, loop around. You don't want to make it a child of the other object the way you might in Unity, because then if both scripts are running, if I turn this off, then it'll calm down. But otherwise, it's taking the movement of the parent and the child script as well. It's easier if you just have them as separate objects. You can run into some stuff with collision stuff later. Anyway, so we've got those two. Let's duplicate that. I just selected Control D. I'm going to move up a little bit. And then these, I could give them a different color. Obstacle 1, obstacle 2, why not? Now these are going to be blue. And And then both of those, I'm just going to drag that over mesh renderer. That's there. They're all moving the same speed. But, you know, maybe we want these to be 9. So now they're going the other way. So very, very, very quickly, we've built the beginnings of something. And if you're just, you know, if you ignore everything over there, if you're just looking at the game view, let's say, you know, you're ignoring this. This is not a bad beginning of a Crossy Road kind of game. The camera's not right, you know, the camera's not moving, but at its core, this is Crossy Road. Not that far from Flappy Bird. Watch the Flappy Bird tutorial. Identical code to move an obstacle at a certain speed and wrap it around and stuff like that. That whole idea of moving and wrapping, and probably what we're going to end up doing with this. And if I grab all those and duplicate further down the road as well, I can change the speed to be, you know, 15 or something. Now we've got some things further down that are going a little bit differently. Change these to be, you know, negative 6. And we've got a different set of objects that are moving around. And we would have to have the camera move. We can make it a child of the player object, and then as we move, it's moving, although you don't really notice that anything's moving if you don't see anything. I talked about this last time with our Subway Surfers game. With nothing on the scene to move, that's why a lot of the racing games have little, you know, checkered things on the side or something. You can't tell that I'm moving up and down. It looks like all the obstacles are moving up and down until you some trees or something. We made even just one cylinder somewhere here, and when that's a tree, now we can tell that, oh, we are actually moving. And it's not clean at all, but you know, we've been at this for a grand total of about 20 minutes. We've already got something that looks a lot like the Crossy Road game. We've got, you know, long thing here. We can have logs and water to fall in and all that kind of stuff. So, and this is kind of the beauty of it, you know. And you can say, yeah, I want to start with this, but this is not where I want to end. That's the beauty of game development. We can make the camera a child of the player, and put it straight in the middle of the scene. They have a camera that sort of follows the player. There's a let's see. I guess we could work on the camera next. So their camera is kind of offset over. Kind of more this-ish, sort of, or kind of. Except it's wider, and I do have screenshots that I am going to actually put more effort into trying to make it look like Crossy Road. Even something like that, you know, if that's the floor, and then we've got duplicated that, move it down, even wider, and then that's like the, you know, a different floor that's that green a little bit darker, something like that, just to distinguish. Not bad. So we want to add something here, and really what we want to do is a position constraint. So constraints are not only used for cameras. You can use them for different things. When you want to constrain something, like if you want to, I'll just show you. Like if we wanted the, we could have the camera here, put on this aim constraint, and the camera is going to aim at the player. We do that, we activate it, or we can click is active, a weight of 1, and we add source, player. And so it is now looking at the player. And as the player moves, so it takes into account where you kind of start and stuff. So that's not that's doing. Oh, I guess because we're, it's got the flipping out on the set all that. Or like that. Now the camera is looking. You can see over here it's watching the player. So we want that, but we're also going to want some kind of a movement. We want it to move with the player. So you can, like if we took the obstacle, if we added an aim constraint to look at the player as well, then this obstacle is always going to sort of aim at the player. Yeah, I'm watching you. That would definitely make the game a little bit harder and creepier. Put some eyes on there. It's watching. So it doesn't have to be just for the camera, but you can do a position constraint, because there are situations where just making the camera a child doesn't really work. With sometimes you need the camera to be a separate object. If you've got some different cameras in different players and things like that, you might have a parent that is position constrained, and then you've got multiple cameras. You've got like first person, third person, different. Anyway, the camera constraints, the constraints can be useful. So we've got an aim constraint. That's good. Change the weight of it. Here, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to do a position constraint, and that's going to be active. And I think if I do this, it will keep everything relative to where we are at. I'm going to save my scene. I've not done yet. And all right, yeah. So now the look at almost doesn't even matter, because we've got a position constraint that is following. So we can crank that down so that it doesn't quite. So that's at 100%. That's 0. It's not following at all. You can change the weight. That can be interesting. In Crossy Road, they're using Cinemachine, which is a whole. Because Crossy Road was built in Unity. Cinemachine can do some really, really incredible camera stuff. Oh, I probably have to import Cinemachine. But if you watch the way that it goes, the way the camera kind of fades in, and the player can move up several things, and the camera lags back, and the camera will fade or move into position where the player is. That's probably Cinemachine. They could have custom coded it, but when you use something like Unity, you use it for stuff like that, so you don't have to build it yourself. And Cinemachine is just incredible, but I don't know it well enough to teach it here. B, too complicated for kind of the target audience I'm aiming at. But if you want to do some fancy camera stuff and have your camera pan between different things and stuff, it's incredible. A lot of good tutorials out there from people that know it well. I'm not one of them. I've used it. Cinemachine, CINE machine for Unity. Pretty cool. But for now, we don't even really need the aim constraint. I'll turn that off, I guess. But the position constraint is the main thing that we need. So now, with the position constraint, probably ought to make it. I might be tired of my mechanical keyboard. I probably ought to set the script so that. So if I do get key instead of get key down, and I use W. Now, if I just hold it down, it'll just keep moving. Let's see. I'm going to do that at least for W and S. And it's kind of ridiculous, but what would be nicer is something. Well, again, Crossy Road, you tap to move. In Frogger, if you hold down the joystick, you'll keep moving in that direction. That's not quite what we're building here. But here, so the camera moves. I don't know if the camera should actually move with the X. I know we want to move with the Z. The Y doesn't matter. So I'm just moving back and forth and looking at the X. So let's turn off freeze position X. I think I like that better. So what that's doing is that is not, if I do that, then it doesn't matter if I move side to side. It's gonna stay there, and that's probably better. That's probably closer to the game. Yeah, I think I like that. And again, my goal is not to build exactly Crossy Road. Let's see what I did. Yeah, I just turned off freeze position axis. So of course, I'll have to redo that. I'm just gonna kill the aim, right? Turn off freeze position axis X. So that way, if I move back and forth, it tracks my forward and my backward. Does not track my side to side, which is good. It's a little jumpy with it moving around. So that feels more like I'm moving around a screen rather than the whole camera moving. The AMAT constraint could be useful, in Crossy Road if you crash against something. Sometimes it'll show like a Polaroid snapshot of this is where you died. That can be kind of fun for that. And so you turn on the aim constraint or crank up the weight or whatever. It would, point over at that. But again, it's kind of outside the scope. But I think that works well. Another time when turning these freezing the axis is useful is if you're moving a character around and jumping up and down, but you don't want the camera to bounce every time that the player jumps, you would turn off the Y because that's where it moves up and down. So if I'm doing this every time, especially on the side view, that gets old real quick. So you can turn off that Y constraint, and then I can take the player and I can move the player up and down. It doesn't matter. And I guess Crossy Road, they do, it jumps. I don't even know that I'm going to do that. I just kind of like, we're here, and then we're there. Move forward, we move back. I will put the one step at a time back in, but I don't think we want the camera to bounce up and down each time that does either. So let's see, I hate that. So Camera, turn that off. So that's a better experience. And then if we jumping or not or whatever, really we just want the camera to track the forward and back. All right, so and I came out of play mode because my screen was pink. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to set that back camera. I want to freeze the Y position. Do not want it bouncing along with the character. We could do a I could make it jump each time. No, I'm not going to do that. No. So my goal of these videos is to show you how, not just how I build something, why I build it. My goal is to explain what I'm doing, how I'm thinking, the thought process. This is, if somebody's like, hey, I want you to build a Crossy Road type game. I would build a prototype. We would go and talk about, okay, how do you want this to be different from Crossy Road? You don't want to make something that's exactly like Crossy Road. Nobody wants to play exactly Crossy Road. Nobody wants to play almost Crossy Road. They do, they'll just go play Crossy Road. They'll play Crossy Road. Which is why yours have to have something different. Now, if it's a first-person game, if suddenly camera's down here, we are all up in his business, throwing away. Then that could be interesting. It's a first-person kind of a Crossy Road. We've seen a lot of those kind of games too. But you need to do something different. First-person Flappy Bird is interesting. I built that. It's interesting. But yeah, so the goal is not to be exactly like that, but this is how I would approach building something like that. This is the thought process that I go through, except I don't normally explain everything out loud to myself while I'm doing it. It's for your benefit. But yeah. So yeah, so we've got some obstacles, and then probably what we'll want to do, we'll want to make a thing called obstacles 000. And this could even be groups of obstacles, like all 4 of those are there. Duplicate that and move that down the road, and move it over here. Now, depending on the timing, it's up, so that's closer to, we don't have a big drop shadow that shows its way off. Depending on the timing of things, all these are still set to move at the same, to wrap at the same place. But because these start here and those start there, they will end up kind of going at different places. Where is it? Got it. I've got it too close. All right, there we go. So moving, or actually, those are not moving right. So I move them over. Should be 0, 0 as well. But I mean, you can still offset them a little bit, or better yet, in here and move these two over a little bit, and then those two, something like that, and you can even duplicate those two and move some shorter cars, I guess. Longer, just to change it up a little bit. This is starting to look a little more interesting, and that's not that far off from the Crossy Road, except for the painfully bright, blinding colors there. Terrible. Let's change. I'm going to tone that down a little bit. Yeah, if we put wheels and a little white bed on the front, you're close to either one. So, and I think I'm gonna change. Set those back to key down. Sorry for the loud mechanical keyboard. Not sorry, it's a fantastic keyboard. Don't like it's zooming too much, and this is more like what it would be. And now, you know, yeah, nothing is really aligned. No, I'm not paying a lot of attention to the positioning and stuff like that. You know, everything in Crossy Road happens at sort of 1 unit, or the equivalent of that. Maybe opinions doesn't matter. None of that stuff is in place yet. None of that stuff really matters yet, to be honest. This again and pull that back out there, and then I give these things and say, okay, I want all of these. I want that to be -7, 7, but then, you know, I want the next two instead of 9 to be 12. So we've got a little more speed there. Do something else over here, something a little different. So here, let's say I take those two, and I'm going to make the move speed of -15 because it's going to be train. F over here to frame them or focus in on them. Duplicate that, move up there, closer together or whatever. And work or not. Yeah, so we kind of got a starting point. You know, it's a little big. I'm not, you know, moving quick enough to kind of get where everything is. Here's my train, which is not working at all. Everything's looping around too much. It's hitting other things. So, and eventually what we would want to do too is we would want to loop some of these things around so that, you know, once the player gets to a certain position, these items will come up here, or new items will come up there. You know, even better, we have several of these sets of obstacles, and, you know, the other option we could do. So if I go to all of these, I'm going to do this, and I guess I'm going to take the one, and I'm going to copy the component constraint on any of them. So I'm going to grab all those. Some of them have the aim constraint, some of them don't. That's okay. That. I'm going to copy the component for one of them. I'm going to remove that from all of them. Come over here, 3 dots, and paste component as new. That will paste it as new, but it will keep the parameters of the previous one on there. So this is not going to be perfect. And if I move this train down closer so we can see where it's at, we could even give it a different color. Some of the other trains have dark color, and we grab all those and that color on there. Oh yeah, that's why it's not perfect, because it's looping, so my minimum needs to be a lot lower. Yeah. So and you can crank up the speed if you really want to like see it go all the way through, and so yeah, it's disappearing off the end, but it wouldn't, you know, if I wanted it to like go way far out and only show up every so often, I can just crank up this max X, crank down the min X, so it's going to go much further, and it's going to go, you know, so that's not a bad option for doing it. It comes through every once in a while. You can have it where, you know, the little lights pop on, and so I actually kind of like that. Let's just do -50. This at 100, and then that at like -60. And I'm going to copy the component because when I come out of play mode, everything is reset. So then we're back to that. And I want to go back over here and paste component values. That is going to put that in place for that. So this is our game. It is getting closer to, oh, rain just killed me. It's getting closer to looking like a Flappy Bird game. Or, sorry, no, that was 3 months ago. Looking a lot closer to a Crossy Road type game, where we've got some stuff happening. We've got some obstacles. We've got some movement. The Sidekick Scripts helped, as they always do, to really help emphasize how quickly that how quickly they can help get things up and going, which is why I built them. So it's definitely a plus. Check it all out at superherocoding.com. I'm Greg. I'm the creator. That's where we're going to stop today. Creator of Superhero Coding. And we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.